We're about to do the tour of Lucy the elephant. Okay, she's drinking some water. I was here many years ago.
For the nation's oldest roadside attraction, that's right, Lucy the elephant right here. Now before we go up, I'm going to give you a little overview of her history. Then we're going to go in, we're going to watch a really cool little movie about her. We have some footage throughout the years. We're going to go on top, we're going to take some pictures because it's such a beautiful day. There will be a test, you should start taking notes. Right, there's no test. All right. Now Lucy was built in 1881. To give you an idea where that was in the American history timeline, the Civil War ended about 16 years before that. The year was so great, we actually had 3 different presidents that year. Count them, 1, 2, 3. Don't remember any of their names. I think we have it up there on the video. It was the last time my name was actually popular. So you know it was a long time ago. So I mean, Lucy's been standing here for a very, very, very long time. But this is not where we actually built Lucy. Here you see that big brick high-rise a couple blocks over right there? Lucy was actually built on the property over there. Now, from the 1880s until the early 1960s, a whole lot of stuff happened to Lucy, and by then she started falling into some serious disrepair. The people that owned her sold the land out from underneath of her to those developers, and the city of Margate condemned her, and they were just going to knock her down. But a group of Margate citizens took a look at Lucy and said, you know what, we really love her, and we want to save her. So they formed the Save Lucy Committee. They literally went from door to door all throughout the city and was able to collect enough money to lift Lucy up, take her for a little walk down the street, and boom, put her here on city property. And they continue to raise money, of course, to restore Lucy to the way we see her today. Now, speaking of restoration, you may have noticed on all of her legs, we have these 5 different paint bands going on, and then we scraped some of the paint off of Lucy's belly, 50 years of it, by the way. Last year we decided that we were going to repaint Lucy completely to help with all the rust. So we wanted to figure out which paint was going to work the best. But as you were scraping off all the paint, we found another problem. All the tin that's covering her was not only rusting from the outside, it's rusting from the inside as well. So we came up with the decision to actually redo all of the metal that's on Lucy. We're going to strip her completely down and redo all the metal. We have a nickel-based metal that's going to go on her, and it does not rust, so that's going to help with a lot of the problems. And then, of course, I think this is the paint I think we're going to be using, so that'll be the paint that that's how she's going to look. So get your tickets out now, because we're going to go up inside an elephant. You don't hear that often now, do you?
No.
All right. Now, I do have furniture out there. I'm going to ask, please do not jump on the furniture. Now, now, that used to be the ticket booth, that little tiny closet. Thank you, thank you.
Sure. So this will be down for years, right?
No, it won't take that long.
Oh.
As I said, we do have some furniture up here. Let me explain what happened. Last year, we did, the good people at Airbnb partnered with us to do a fundraiser for Lucy the elephant, which is a wonderful thing. So we auctioned off 3 days, it was one couple each day, to stay overnight here inside of Lucy. We got all the furniture, we had the beds, we had chairs and tables and everything else. And it was a great event, and we had all these people apply for it, and 3 people won, and then March happened. You all know what happened last March. So it took a little while, but we actually got everybody in here, and they all had a wonderful time, and they stayed overnight, and it was a wonderful, wonderful little promotion. But of course, now that they're done, we're getting rid of all the furniture. As you see, some of the things have prices on them. So if you like what you see, let us know, and we'll help take it to your car. We have some footage from when we moved Lucy. There's actually some footage from the 1800s, which is really cool, and a lot of really cool pictures through the years. So enjoy.
Attraction in America. In 1881, James Lafferty, Welcome to Lucy the Elephant, a National Historic Landmark and the oldest roadside attraction in America. In 1881, James Lafferty, a Philadelphia engineer and inventor, built Elephant Bazaar, which was Lucy's first name. Lafferty's patented design was based on the world-famous circus elephant, Jumbo. The elephant would be the center point of his new real estate business. Let's take a look at the world of James Lafferty in 1881. There were only 38 states in America. 3 men served as president of the U.S. in 1881. Rutherford Hayes, James Garfield, and Chester Arthur. Thomas Edison began construction of a generator plant in New York City that would power his new invention called the light bulb. The Statue of Liberty would open 5 years after Lucy, and the Eiffel Tower would open in Paris 6 years later. Lafferty was involved in 2 other elephant buildings as well, Light of Asia in Cape May, New Jersey, and Elephantine Colossus in Coney Island. Sadly, neither of the 2 elephants would survive into the 20th century. Only 6 years after starting his real estate business in South Atlantic City, Lafferty is forced to sell to the Gerson family. It is John Gertson's wife, Sophia, who actually renames Elephant Bazaar as Lucy. It would not be until 1901 that automobiles would be manufactured in the United States, so the earliest visitors to Lucy would either walk or came by horse and carriage or by train. The Camden Atlantic Railroad, which extended from Atlantic City down to South Atlantic City, would eventually expand service to Lucy. In 1909, South Atlantic City secedes from Egg Harbor Township and becomes Margate. For the next 50 years, Lucy is a summer home, a tavern, and of course, one of the most famous roadside attractions in America. And Lucy remained in the Gerson family until 1970, when she was donated to the Save Lucy Committee. Just as horsepower carriages gave way to automobiles, air travel in the 1950s opened up new vacationing possibilities. Atlantic City started to see a decline in tourism, and so did Lucy. By 1962, Lucy was condemned. She sat for an additional 7 years until 1969, when she faced imminent destruction. That's when Josephine Herron, Ed Carpenter, and Sylvia Carpenter, and a local group of activists came together to form the Save Lucy Committee.
I guess on the beach one day, I think I was in the ocean swimming with my friends, and I happened to look down the beach and see an elephant, and I thought, my goodness, it needs to be repaired, it looks terrible. I was shocked to see the condition that it was in, and I spoke to my friend, and I said, don't you think somebody ought to do about it?
Endless fundraising efforts, private donations, and an elephant-sized public relations campaign all came together to make the impossible possible. On Monday, July 20th, 1970, Lucy started the slow and steady 8-hour walk 2 blocks away to Decatur Avenue, where she stands today. It was a major media event and even made the coveted back page of Life magazine that summer. Now the real heavy work began to restore Lucy. 4 more years and Lucy finally reopened to the public. In 1976, Lucy was granted the honor of being designated as a National Historic Landmark. Visitors often ask, what is the biggest challenge in caring for Lucy the elephant? The answer is simple: the weather. In 1929, a storm destroyed the original riding carriage on Lucy's back, known as the Howdy. In 1944, the Great Atlantic Hurricane that washed away the boardwalk in front of Lucy also destroyed the Turkish pavilion known as the Elephant Hotel. Following the March storm of 1962, Lucy was closed and condemned. In 2007, Lucy's howdah had to be repaired after being struck by lightning. In 2009, Lucy's tail had to be repaired from a severe windstorm. 2012, Superstorm Sandy did heavy damage to the park surrounding Lucy, but only her feet got wet. It is the day after day sandblasting from the beach that does the most damage to Lucy, and every few years she must undergo painting and ongoing restoration. Every July, thousands of people come to celebrate Lucy's birthday, commemorating the big move down the block in 1970. It's an elephant-tastic day of rides, games, fun, and of course, birthday cake and peanuts. Please check in with Lucy on her website. Like Lucy on Facebook. Follow Lucy on Twitter and Instagram. Sign up for Lucy's newsletter and watch Lucy TV on YouTube.
I'll always love Lucy. She's my baby.
And that last voice again was Josephine Harron, one of the women who helped save Lucy. Unfortunately, Josephine has since passed away, but where before she was our savior, now she is our guardian angel, because we know she's up there watching over us. Now, as you saw, the Elephant Hotel that used to be attached behind Lucy, well not attached, but it was behind Lucy, was the actual hotel. A lot of people think because it was Elephant Hotel that Lucy was the hotel. The only time she was recently a hotel was that recent thing with the Airbnb. But back in 1902, we did have somebody living inside of Lucy. A British doctor and his family actually leased Lucy out for the summer months, just for the 3 months of the summer season. And before they moved in, though, they radically altered the interior. The floor that we're on now was actually divided into 4. It was a parlor, a living room, a dining room, and a kitchen. And then they had the steps going up and around, and they actually built a floor over top of us, and they put their 4 bedrooms up there. Now, if you come over here, guys, if this little closet right here, this was actually converted into their bathroom, and if you look inside, you can see that their tub is still here. For electricity. So there was no electricity here on the island, especially on this end of the island, where the only thing that was standing here was just Lucy at the time. So they put all the extra windows in, of course, to take advantage of the natural light during the day. Now, you see the ceiling above us? That's going to be our floor when we go on top of the elephant. You actually walk on the skylight. Don't worry about it. But if you don't want to walk on the glass, there's actually a area you can walk around. So who wants to go on top of the elephant? Yee. All right, guys, let's go up.
I'll take this side.
Now you're walking on the glass. Pretty cool, huh? This was the skylight. Now it's your floor. Pretty neat. Come on up. Plenty of room on the howdah. How you doing from the howdah? You know you're going to get a big workout today, did you? Up and down, up and down. All right, so this is the howdah. It's what the riding carriage is called on Indian elephants. That means Lucy is actually an Indian elephant. The Victorians were very obsessed with everything from the Far East, especially India, so that's why she was modeled after that. Of course, a generation later, they found King Tut's tomb, and then everybody went all Egypt crazy. But back then, when she was built, everything was from India. Now, from her painted toenails to the top of the howdah, she's 65 feet tall. So that means you're about 6 stories above the island. Of course, there's 4 cities on the island. Atlantic City's down in the distance. Ventnor City's in between. That's where I live, in Ventnor. This is Margate City. You see Margate's water tower's got Lucy on it. She's our mascot. And that happy smiley face over there is Longport, the last city on the island. Now, if you look down the big building along the beach, that's Ocean City, New Jersey, the next island down the chain. And it's a little misty today, but normally on very clear days, you can actually see all the way down to Cape May. You can see all the buildings and stuff down there. Wow. But it's a little too foggy, a little misty today. Now, back in the 1880s, James Lafferty, who designed and built Lucy, was granted a patent by the United States government. Now, we don't know how we got it or why they gave it to him. Only he was allowed to build animal-shaped buildings. That is a very strange patent to get. Now, you saw in the video, there were 3 elephants around at the time of Lucy. Now, the one that was in Coney Island, the Elephantine Colossus, was actually built by James Lafferty. They commissioned him to build an elephant up there in the park as a big attraction. But it was called the Elephantine Colossus for a reason. It was twice the size of Lucy. It was about 10 stories tall. It had a bunch of different rooms on the inside, the heart room, the lung room, the liver room, the head room. So yeah, it was a bunch of different rooms. And it lasted about 16 years before it unfortunately burned down. But during its last year, before it burned down, it actually was turned into a brothel. I'll let you explain that to the kids later. And the expression was, meet me at the Elephant. So it had a bit of a different history than Lucy did. Now, the one that was down there in Cape May, the Light of Asia, that was built by a group of real estate investors down there. They wanted to build an elephant to attract people to Cape May, like Lucy was attracting people from this area up here. So they approached James Lafferty and asked his permission, and he said, yes, you could build one, but under one condition, it has to be smaller than Lucy. So the Light of Asia was only about 50 feet tall. And if you saw it quickly in the video, it kind of looked like a duck. It was a little weird looking at for an elephant. Now, that one didn't last long at all. Only about 6 years. They never really took care of it. It started to fall apart, and they ended up just knocking it down. Now, if you pop down to Cape May and you ask everybody where the elephant used to be, they won't be able to tell you because that part of Cape May is now underwater. Now, I pointed out the brick building. That's where Lucy used to stand before the big move over here. But it's actually the second time Lucy has been moved. Originally, she was built on the beach itself. But a storm came up and buried her in the sand, all the way up to her knees, actually. And they dug her out and they pushed her back to safer ground where that building stands today. And where the parking lot is, that's where the Elephant Hotel used to stand. Now, the move from there to here in 1970 did take about 8 hours, even though it's only 2 blocks. That's because the engineers were seriously afraid that Lucy was just going to split like this. They were afraid because she was in such bad condition as you saw in the video. Thankfully, she held together and we're here today. Now, this part of Margate, this part of the island, I should say, wasn't really built up until they built the railroad from Atlantic City to here, the Camden Atlantic. And if you look over here at our gift shop, that little part of the building that's in the front, that's actually the original building that was the train Camden Atlantic. So it's pretty cool that in this one little square. Look at how cool is that, guys? Look, there's her head and her ears. Oh my goodness. All right, guys, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And this. Good job. That's a big. Actually, the back of Lucy's ears, each ear weighs around 2,000 pounds. Lucy in total weighs 60 tons. Now, there's a legend about Lucy's eyes, which we've never been able to confirm is true, but supposedly during the days of Prohibition, the rum runners would be out at sea with all the liquor, and they put red lights in Lucy's eyes to tell them it wasn't safe. And then when the coast was clear, they changed the light to green to say, bring all the liquor in. Now, considering Atlantic City's history during Prohibition, I think it's true. Lucy had a little something to do with it.
That's funny.
Although now her eyes shine blue, like that other guy from New Jersey, old Blue Eyes himself, Frank Sinatra. Over the years, we have commemorative plates and mugs and cups. We have some of the tins we saved when they used to go around for donations. Also the painted shells from the Elephant Hotel, we still have them saved. And some of the rubber stamps that they use. Glass here at Lucy's tail. We call that the pain in the butt. I'll be here all weekend.
That's the best joke I heard all day.
All right, guys, I have one more thing. Take a look at that little round window right there.
How about that?
Now, we had to do it. So thank you for coming out on the tour today.
Thank you very much.
Here is your official Lucy card.
Oh, good.
You're now part of her fan club. It's a quick fan club at the end. She's awesome.
I was part of it in the 70s.
Okay, well, welcome back. She's been waiting.
Yeah.
To purchase tickets. Degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies and sun. Throughout the day, you can expect more of the same, with a high of 82 degrees and a low of 59 degrees.
It'll be $45.
Thanks so much for watching our visit to the Jersey Shore and touring America's oldest roadside attraction, Lucy the Elephant. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the bell notification, and don't forget to subscribe.